Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast. I am your host, Ashwin. We have a full house for the first time after a while. This is going to be fun. Nothing like the IPL to at least get all three of us together. Let me just start checking in. Varun, how are you doing? I know last week when we talked, DJ was feeling a little overwhelmed by the 10-team IPL and the change in format and this, that. But how are you feeling?
Yeah, I was also feeling a little overwhelmed. I don't know if overwhelmed is the right word, but I was having these debates with everyone that the IPL feels weaker and the quality is not the same. And I read an article that said the TV viewership in the first opening week versus last year is down 33%. But then I realized that the Watia hasn't really played yet. And so that's why viewership is down. IPL is not as exciting. So things are back, man. We've got last ball games. We've got some cracking victories, and yeah, it's all coming back now. Suddenly, I'm feeling a lot more pumped.
I saw a tweet that said, "This is Rahul Tewatia's world, and we are all just living in it." And boy, has that been true this week. DJ, what about you? Feeling a little better since last week? I mean, it helps that at the time we're recording this, we're fresh off of a big Delhi win, which is always good for our feelings, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think my mood is disproportionately affected by how this Delhi team performs. Last week, of course, when we recorded, we just lost a game which I thought we should have won. Today, we won really convincingly. Yeah, I'm getting used to the idea of this IPL again. What is weird to get used to though is that we're 2 weeks into the IPL now, and the two most successful franchises are yet to win a game. I mean, I'm pretty shocked. I'm pretty amazed by that, to be honest. But yeah, enjoying the IPL and enjoying the Delhi performance today.
Yeah, I saw a great tweet that said both teams have played 1-0, lost 4. So it's kind of like error 404, win not found.
That is a great line.
That's good.
Exceptional.
Also, Varun, we've had requests for you to do the sequel to the Tewatia song. I hope you've got something ready for us on this show.
I'm working on it, man. I'm working on it. It actually Tewatia is pretty easy to make lyrics to.
Yeah, I was going to say I have some ideas, so we can brainstorm it offline. So. Yeah, but DJ, you alluded to the points table, right? Pretty interesting. Varun, what do you think the bookmakers, the odds were that both Chennai and Mumbai would be sitting here week 2 in with 0 wins or 4? You can sit here and say, yeah, both of them had pretty poor mega auctions in hindsight, but at the same time, we've talked about some teams just know how to win, and Chennai and Mumbai have historically been those, right?
Yeah, it's shocking, and again, you kind of correlate the lower viewership with the fact that Chennai and Mumbai have built the most brand loyalty. And so if these two teams are not winning, and let's say 30-40% of the kind of cricket watching population supports these two teams, you're in trouble, right? Because these guys are what kind of keep the IPL going. And so it's been interesting. I also read something that said Mumbai Indians worst starts in IPLs have always been after mega auctions. There have been 5, I think, in the last 10 or 12 years. And so they've had really bad starts. So it speaks a lot of that culture. I think they had 4 losses in a row before that as well. And they came back and won one year. So I don't see them doing that this year. It's also a factor of, spending 15 crores on Kishan. I don't know how much Jofra got, but spending that money on somebody who can't play this year. So it is a combination of that. And with CSK, sometimes I wonder if there was that clarity of thinking with Dhoni giving up just a few days before. Why wasn't somebody like Faf retained for captaincy if Jaddu could just continue playing? So, yeah, I think these mega auctions, take a lot out of you. But it doesn't feel like Gujarat and Lucknow right now, the two new teams. It feels like Mumbai and CSK are.
I do like that you just dropped a good Ravi Shastri insight and acted like it was your own. Like
Which
that was Shastri's exact quote recently saying they should have retained Faf if Dhoni knew he was stepping down. Did you really not know? Is that just
no? I didn't.
Oh yeah. Shastri said if Dhoni knew he was stepping down, a lot better succession plan would have been just as you said.
I mean, just because Jaddu looks so uncomfortable and Dhoni's still calling the shots, and you've made Jaddu captain, but he's not really in the running for captaincy for any other team. Like, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, lots to double click on, and we will get a chance to go through before we finally start down and go through every single match of the week since we were last together. DJ, I want to ask you about the other side of the points table. Who who predicted that Hardik Pandya would be an undefeated captain in his first 3 matches with a brand new franchise?
Yeah, it's completely topsy-turvy, right? The table. It's like when we looked at the various squads, I pretty much was like, okay, LSG looks good. So I don't think that's been much of a surprise. But the Gujarat Titans, what they've had actually, and that's when you look at teams and on paper and you're like, okay, maybe they don't have this, maybe they don't have that. But if your big players fire, then you're going to do well. They've had the Gills firing, they've had like Lockie doing really well for them. So once if your big players start performing and performing well, you are going to do well in the IPL, no matter what the depth of the team is. And so while they may not have the biggest bench strength or the deepest squad, they've been a revelation so far this IPL. I think LSG, Lucknow Super Giants, for those who are still getting used to the new acronyms. Are they Super Giant or Giants?
They're plural.
Giants.
I think they're Giants.
Okay.
But they're not rising anymore. Pune was
They're
still
not.
rising. Lucknow
Yeah.
has risen, I guess.
Lucknow has risen, and they've risen pretty high in the top of the table. And they're doing pretty well right now. They're playing right now. They've got Rajasthan Royals 84 for 4 with some strikes by Gotham. But yeah, they've done well. So I don't think anyone would have predicted that the Pandya-led franchise would be topping the table 2 weeks in. But here we are.
All right.
Oh, undefeated. Maybe they're not topping the table.
Yeah, they're not topping the table at the moment. Yeah, it's interesting. Varun, we'll get to talk a little bit more. We get a little bit of hate from some of our listeners for making fun of the Sunrisers, but arguably they won because they had to play the early match on Saturday, which was CSK versus SRH. So I think the disappointment was that somebody had to be a winner, and it was a pretty painful match. But all right, we got a bunch of matches to cover since we were last together last Sunday. We're going to start with each game, and I'm just going to have you guys kind of go one by one and talk through them. We don't need to go through the whole game, but just kind of highlights. So, Varun, let me start with you first because I know how much you love the Hyderabad team. The 12th game of the IPL was the Sunrisers Hyderabad versus Lucknow Super Giants. And Lucknow batted first and was one of the few teams, again, that batted first and won. KL Rahul kind of back to his best, making half centuries at 125, 130-ish, Varun.
Yeah, I mean, we saw KL Rahul. I couldn't tell which team he was playing for. It looked like he was playing for Punjab. He just batched that same way. But don't blame him because the next 3 got out for 1, 1 and 11. So he kind of had to hold the fort. Deepak Hooda came in well. And this kid, Ayush Badoni, what a guy, man. He just comes in and like he can take a ball from the 6th or 7th stump and flick it across for 6. Like, fantastic. So, yeah, overall, they got 169. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, this is one of the first few games that a team batting first has won.
Other than Rajasthan. For some reason, Rajasthan has batted first and won 2 or 3 games, maybe. Yeah, so.
Oh, wow. Okay. So then apart from Rajasthan, first team that's actually done this. And yeah, I think overall good. When you're looking at Sunrisers, I think to restrict them to 169 was also not bad. But then comes the problem of this batting, right? Like, they just don't have that batting lineup to kind of chase this. I mean, or rather on paper, I would say when I looked through that lineup, I saw Williamson, Tripathi, Makram, Puran, and Sundar. And that's not bad on paper, but something has just not clicked for them. So Williamson not being able to find his way, getting out, at a runner ball in this game. Tripathi went back to the 150 strike rate, but overall just not enough. I mean, you can't help but think that, Makram and Puran played for Punjab as well. The duo has been kind of lifted and moved to Hyderabad, and they didn't do that much there. I really think they need to get a little bit kind of more focused, more disciplined, and realize that if both of them click, they are a solid batting lineup. I would say if even one of them clicks, but it just doesn't work. And then after that, after Sundar, you've got the scores read 0-8-1-1. And so I give them credit for getting to 157. I think it was a closer game than most people expected, but still, I would say boring, man. Watching Hyderabad is just boring now when you've got the luxury of 9 other teams. So overall, Lucknow expected to win, and they did just that.
Quick shout out to Avesh Khan, 10 crores. Great. And again, in a 10-team IPL, a lot of pace bowlers were always going to be a premium. But he started a little weak. And of course, we've seen this with Untitled and players over the years. But to come back and get 4 for 24, pretty unbelievable, right?
Yeah, he was excellent. And just continuing that form from Delhi last year, I think he's pretty much just had one season that he's done really well, which was last year. And so a lot of these guys, like whether it's Venki Iyer or Ruturaj, these guys still untested. So when I see people like Avesh Khan and Harshal Patel doing so well second year in a row, it gives me a lot of happiness because hey, in 2 to 3 years, you might see both these guys playing in a regular lineup for India, right? So I was really happy with Avesh Khan.
Yeah, we still have a little bit of time to start talking about the India T20 side, but I feel like Harshal is already there, right? Like it's unbelievable to think Bumrah and Harshal are now the two kind of T20 strike bowlers. Right, DJ. From there, we went to the Wankhede. Rajasthan played Bangalore. Rajasthan unfortunately batted first again, which is this match that's happening as we record. It's their fourth in a row. But the Bangalore team notched up a win. Rajasthan got their first loss of the season. You want to talk us through that one?
Yeah, this was the DK show at the end, wasn't it? This was the DK and Shahbaz Ahmed partnership, but we'll come to that. I think this was characterized, this game, by it was no one really was fluent in this game. Even Josh Butler, who got 70, and I think with that took the orange cap. It was an uncharacteristic Josh Butler, and he's batted all 20 overs, right? He's ended at 70 not out, which is surprising for somebody like Josh Butler. When he bats 20 overs, you'd expect him to be on over 100, right? So I think 169 was a good score on that track. I think the Wankhede has actually been playing a little bit funny this year. It hasn't been the kind of batting paradise it's been in previous years. But you saw that Padikkal score some runs. Josh Butler got runs, and for RCB Hasaranga, I think he pretty much, you can predict that he's going to bowl a googly almost every other ball. Almost he bowls so many googlies.
I learned today that he was a fast bowler till age 16. Apparently, yeah, we've seen a few of those over time. But anyway, fun fact.
Oh, so a little bit like Anil Kumble then, who also used to bowl mostly googlies and top spinners.
But Anil finished his career as a fast bowler, right?
Faster than Venkatesh Prasad. That's what you mean.
Extracted more pace and bounce than the Indian quicksand. Anyway.
Yeah, of the time. But yeah, I mean, I think 169 for 3 was a slightly weird innings. But it was a good score, and it was a good score on the board. And at 87 for 5, right? With Yuzi Chahal taking wickets, and I think basically it looked like they may have had enough again after batting first, and their bowling lineup looked like it was a good bowling lineup, right? They've got Prasid, they've got those bowlers to kind of defend that score. But that partnership between Shahbaz Ahmed and DK, I mean, it just shows you how DK is one of those dangerous, underrated finishers, and he continues to do it. I think the stat is that he's currently or at that point, he'd scored like 90 runs in 44 balls. And he was basically like, he uses the crease pretty well. He hits it behind square, he hits it over the top, he hits it straight. He's got shots all over the park. Like he can hit over cover, he can hit over mid wicket. So it was just a innings for the ages, really, by DK, right? And I mean, it's kind of sad that he doesn't really get a fair consideration when it comes to the Indian T20 team. Maybe they think he's over the hill, but I mean, it was an impressive performance by the old warhorse, so to speak. And Shahbaz Ahmed gave him great support as well. And DK took his time. He really he targeted Ashwin, which is, like, if you think about it, not the most obvious thing. But I think you were texting us saying, man, he's waited for Ashwin and just taken him absolutely apart, right? In that 18th or 19th over. So yeah, I guess they must have been Tamil Nadu teammates at one time. So DK would have known his bowling pretty well. But yeah, still a pretty commendable thing to take Ashwin's bowling apart. And so the first loss for the Rajasthan Royals and the RCB. What's good about RCB is, like, earlier they would lose a lot of these close games, but they're scrapping their way through and winning them. And I think that's the DK effect. He's done this, I think, twice this season now, right? So yeah,
already. I think it's going to be interesting to see RCB. They've played 4-1-3 already, and just this is with Faf, Rawat, Kohli up top, DK later, and now they've slotted Maxwell into that number 4 slot, who also is already getting wickets with his fielding. Like, just very interesting to
Oh
see.
yeah,
the
that
battle.
was a great run out. It was
Yeah.
such a 90s jaunty roads type of run out, right? We'll talk about that later. But it's
Yeah.
great.
So Varun, we go back to Pune again. I feel like I'm giving you. This was not by design, but I'm giving you your favorite teams. You get to talk about KKR. I mean, Pat Cummins was playing Test cricket till a couple of weeks ago. Gets off a plane, I guess, completes his quarantine, does all the things, shows up, and does decent with the ball, goes for some runs. But then what happened? Like, what happened? Who showed up?
What was that tweet DJ sent us today? It was great. It's like Pat Cummins bats like Viv Richards, bowls like Michael Holdings, and looks like Tom Cruise. I mean, what a combination that is. He was great. Let's run through this.
Is Pat Cummins the new poster child ahead of Chris Wokes for you then?
Not yet, I think, but I haven't seen Wokesy in a while. So
Wokes has got the beard now. He looks like a rugged. He's got rugged. Anyway.
Yeah. So firstly, I want to say nobody's talking about Rohit's captaincy anymore. I wonder what's up with that. Like, where's all that chatter gone? But Rohit Sharma is struggling, guys.
We are going to get a whole load of tweets. It's pipe time, champion.
And yeah, that's great.
You can't answer that.
We might lose a lot of listeners for Varun's last statement too. Let's be clear.
No, I'm just saying there's no chatter. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying there's no chatter about his captaincy, and there has been for the last few months. So, look, we talked about it already, right? They've not got the ideal team combination. If Rohit up top is not getting runs, there's too much pressure on Kishan. I mean, just think of every time he goes out to bat, he's got that price tag on him. We've talked about this many times in the show with many different players, but it doesn't get easier. What I loved was Baby AB, this guy Brevis, man. He was so good in the shots he hit. He was, kept low, very core, kept very stable, and just looked like AB. So that was really fun to watch. Sky was back in this game, and along with Tilak Verma, who has been damn good so far, they managed to chug and pulled Mumbai Indians through to 164. 161 for 4 in 20 overs. And with Bumrah, I think you could always almost say that might be enough. However, when you have a Bumrah in the team, you also have a Basil Thampi and a Daniel Sams, right? So let's talk about the KKR innings. Rahane just back to doing what he does best, 7 of 11, and just taking up some balls, not making too many runs. I don't know if this was the game, but there was one game where he thought he was Jaunty Road, since he referred to Jaunty, and tried a diving catch from point or something to almost near the stumps, and Sam Billings is just looking at him like, what are you doing? This is an easy catch for me. So I don't know what Rahane is up to, but Venki Iyer, 50 of 41, played really well when everyone around him was struggling. Have to also call out that Nitish Rana, right? I read this also. He was 8 crore. So for Nitish Rana, he needs to be a little bit more kind of responsible here, because he's now moved into that middle order. He's no longer opening, which also I think KKR could do with Nitish Rana opening instead of Rahane, but I hear their bench strength isn't strong. Anyway, it comes down to a situation where it's not looking that great. It's pretty tough at 101 for 5 in 13.1 overs. And then out walks Cummins, who, like you said, has just returned from Test cricket. Now, he started hitting a few shots, and at that point I was like, should I go to sleep? Should I wait? 20 overs is too long. Between 13.1 and 15.5, let's say, he finished the game.
It was done by 16 overs.
Yeah, I was like, I've got 30 minutes extra sleep. Thank you, Cummins. This was fantastic. He went berserk.
30 minutes more to dream about Pat Cummins.
Yeah, 56 of 15 balls with 4 sixes and 4 fours and 6 sixes. Strike rate of 373. I have not seen an innings like that for a very long time. I mean, just think of what it did to KKR's confidence, to KKR's net run rate. I just couldn't believe it. I woke up the next morning, I watched it again. I woke up the following morning, I watched it again. It was just incredible. So kudos to him coming in. And a lot of people are questioning that he came in place of Tim Southee, right? And who had been doing a decent job. At the end of that game, you saw Tim Southee go up to him and kind of pat him and hug him and just say, yep, well, you justified it, right? Because this kind of an innings is...
Did you say pat him on purpose?
Yeah, pat him on the back. Yeah, but also shout out to Daniel Sams, man.
Got a good half century.
Fantastic bowling from him. Only 17 runs per over economy rate.
Dude, he got a half century in only 3 overs.
I mean, that's almost as fast as Cummins. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I unbelievable, right? And KKR kind of pulled a rabbit out of a hat here. DJ, let me ask you before we come up to the one more game. What is the plan for Rahane? I feel like you've talked a lot about him as a Test cricketer, etc. Sheldon Jackson is now sitting in the wings with Sam Billings having taken the gloves and batting a little bit lower. Like, do they play around, or does Billings miss out? They bring in somebody like a Saudi to shore up the bowling, and then Sheldon Jackson takes the spot from Rahane. Like, they have to do something, right?
Yeah, and I guess we're talking with the benefit of watching him play today's game as well, where he didn't get many runs either. And he had the weirdest start to an innings. I think he had 2 given out, and then he nicked one, and we didn't even appeal for that in the Delhi team, and that was not out. But then he didn't go on to cause much damage. It's just a weird thing. I mean, I think he's one of the beneficiaries of the 10-team IPL, to be honest. If it was 8 teams, I don't think he would have been getting a playing 11 starting spot. He looked okay when he started off the IPL, but he hasn't really done anything to sort of cement his pace. And I think Sam Billings I don't think you can sit Sam Billings out, to be totally honest with you. I think that
I think he's sat out too long, man, for him to sit out anymore.
Fair, but you can bring Sheldon as a pure batsman. I mean, there was a time when Delhi had 4 or 5 maybe wicket keepers. So you bring
the problem is, and this is what friends were telling me, because all my friends are KKR fans. Just look at the backups for Rahane, right? Aman Hakim Khan, Baba Indrajit, Pratham Singh, Ramesh Kumar, Rinku Singh, Abhijit Tomar. These are the backups, right? So it's not, they don't have that luxury either.
Yeah. Well, I guess they could move Billings up and they could play one of those guys in the middle order, right? It's not going to make much of a difference if you have Rinku Singh coming in at number 6 or something. They hardly get to bat, right? And they're good players in their own right. I mean, Baba Indrajit, I think, is an under-19 World Cup winner, if I'm not wrong. But I don't know. I think there will be a reassessment done. It's still a little bit early in the tournament, right? So maybe they are going to reassess in a bit. But not looking good for him.
Okay, DJ, you have the misfortune of getting to walk through the game that caused you a lot of heartache. That's Delhi Capitals playing the Lucknow Super Giants. Yeah, pretty painful. I'll allow you to run through this one pretty quickly if you'd like.
I don't know. This was like a weird match. It was like that partnership between Sarfaraz and Rishabh Pant was just really strange. I mean, you're not going to win matches scoring 149 for 3. You would rather be bowled out for 130 going for it. I don't know. It just like shocked me. Why Rishabh Pant of all people was playing like that? And you're
I mean, again, we have the benefit now of watching him play, having played today's game against the KKR where he played better. But is there an element of the added pressure of him being captain? By the way, captain retained over Shreyas Iyer. I know he's not a new captain, but this is the first kind of full season he's going to be leading. Is there that pressure that made Rahul into an anchor, that has made Mayank into an anchor maybe, that has caused Jadeja some of the stress in the field, like Jadeja is it some of that, you think?
No, I don't think so at all, actually. I think it was a tough pitch. But if you've got that much firepower, the people who didn't bat, Lalit Yadav, Akshar Patel, Shardul Thakur, they can all swing their bats. So, I mean, getting 39 of 36 is just not acceptable from the skipper. And I don't think it had to do with him anchoring. He just couldn't get it away, to be honest. And I mean, Lucknow bowled well. They bowled to their strengths and they seem to not. I mean, this was a game where I think they could have tried to get a bit of a net run rate boost, but they seem to kind of play the same way that Delhi played and only got there, I think, in the 19th over or the 20th over almost. Yeah, they got there in 19.4, which is weird because 115 today's T20 cricket isn't large. I mean, shout out actually to Prithvi Shaw, who absolutely took off to start. He scored 61 of 34, and by the time he got out, it was 67 for 1 in 7 overs, which is a great start, right? Like you're scoring at 9 runs and over, you're expecting to go on to get 170, 180 from that with the amount of batting left, but it just didn't materialize. And I mean, Quinton de Kock just pretty clinical in a way, right? Like he did bulk of this. If you score 80 out of 150, I mean, there isn't going to be much left. So well batted to them. And yeah, I guess at that point, Delhi fans were starting to panic a little bit because it felt all too familiar. We'd lost 2 games in a row, one from a position where we should have won last week, and then I think one from a position where we were in a good place but just couldn't kick on with the bat. So it was, and we'd lost 2 out of 3 then, and before we won on Sunday, it was looking a bit worrying.
Varun, let me ask you. We just talked about an overseas quick bowler who came in, didn't have any issues acclimatizing, and made a ridiculous 50. For Delhi, the overseas quick bowler who came in was Anrik Nokia. What happened? I'm sitting here thinking he bowled 2.2 overs, got taken off mid-spell because he bowled a second beamer. I didn't get the benefit of watching it. It was during the workday, so I haven't seen that beamer. And then he didn't play Delhi's next game, with Delhi going back to the quick attack of Mustafizur Shardul and Khalil. So is Nokia done for the season already? Do we think he just needs a little more time? Is he dealing with jet lag or something? Or what's going on with him?
Yeah, it's an odd one because they retained him over Rabada, right? So it's an odd one for him to not come in and perform. Look, I think the IPL is almost as good as international level cricket, right? So I think for somebody like Nokia who hasn't played, I would say for more than 5 months, because he didn't play India's tour of South Africa and that was in December. So just thinking about that, it's been 5 to 6 months since he last played a proper game. And I think that sometimes can take a toll on you, right? So between the due, his own injury, no match practice, I don't know, quarantine, IPL bubble, let's just make as many excuses as we can for that one game and hope that he comes back strong, because we'll talk about this more, but Delhi is going to need him very badly as the tournament progresses. And I'm not sure how we're going to make place for him in this particular team, but they will need him, and that is why they retained him as well. So it's okay to have an off day, but yeah, he has to come back.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one. When we chat the last game that we'll be covering this week, maybe we'll double click on that. For now, we will take a quick break. We'll be right back to discuss the remaining 4 weeks of this week's IPL that is starting to heat up.
Hey, it's been another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On The Habit Coach, Ashton meets Devangana Mishra. She is the CEO and founder of Brain Bristle, and this Autism Awareness Month, they discuss how we can understand autism better. The Simplified hosts ponder over how form dictates content, whether it's going from CDs to streaming or blogs to Twitter. On Voices for Water, Karthik talks to Dr. Veena Srinivasan. She is the lead of the Center for Social and Environmental Innovation. They deep dive into the importance of investing in water waste treatment. On Say No to Drama, Chetna tells us why work friends are essential and how they influence our overall performance. And on All Things Policy, the Takshashila folk analyze the implications of China's genetic resource guidelines. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, if you're enjoying this show or any of our other shows for that matter, please do tell a friend. Also, don't forget to rate us on any of the platforms you're listening to us on, including the one you're listening to us on now. And also, please do check us out on YouTube. We have a number of channels. They're all available on ivmpodcast.com/YouTube. We're also doing a small listener survey to help us understand you, the listener, better, and how you like our shows, how you respond to the advertising, and so on. We'd really appreciate it if you could spare a few minutes to fill it out. It's at ivmpodcast.com/survey. And finally, we'd like to thank our sponsors on the network this week: SBI Life Insurance, India Water Portal, and Jupiter, a digital banking app. Thank you so much for making this possible.
Welcome back to the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast. Right, Varun, we covered 4 games of the week. We're going to go jump right into the next one. Another win for Hardik Pandya's boys. Punjab versus Gujarat played at Brabourne in Mumbai. And yeah, just walk us through that. This was really a one-man show, right? It's exciting to see Prithvi Shaw do well for the Delhi Capitals, but it's also exciting to see Shubman Gill really come to the party. Poor guy missed out on that century, but boy, that was out of stunning innings.
Yeah, that was a stunning innings, and I'll talk about that. But equally, what has happened to Punjab's openers? They're just not clicking. Mayank Agarwal has just not been able to get off the mark properly, like getting out to silly shots. And
so sorry, same question about captaincy. I know DJ said he didn't think it, but Rohit has struggled, Mayank has struggled, Jadeja has struggled. Rahul has found a way to do better. Anyway, Mayank is a new
maybe
captain.
there's too many other things to deal with at the start of the IPL and building a culture and stuff. Maybe there's too many things with 10 teams and a mega auction that we are underestimating here. Again, like I said, I don't know if people like Mayank have ever captained before. I'm sure he has, but it's not easy to walk in, right, and start captaining a side at the IPL. So I don't know what it is. Mayank has always kind of played second fiddle in the IPL. Maybe this time he's no longer second fiddle. He's their opening batsman, but he's just not done well enough. Dhawan, same story, 115 strike rate. Like Dhawan, Rohit, Kohli.
Talking about Dhawan and Rahul.
Dhawan, Kohli, Rohit, and Dhawan, Kohli, Rohit, and Rahul. Yeah, just 116.67 strike rate. Not good enough. Just not good enough. I was excited about Bairstow, and it's the same battle happened with Sunrisers. Where should Bairstow bat? He's best up top, right, at the top of the order. But what do? You've got Mayank and Dhawan there. So, like Evan Lewis batted at 3 for a while. I think Bairstow will just have to kind of make do with that. But Liam Livingston, awesome player. I just love watching him bat. He hits it very cleanly. He reminds me a little bit of Butler when he hits his shots. And he's just so much fun to watch. He hit, 64 of 27, 237 strike rate. Jitesh Sharma, who I've never heard of, to be honest, who got out to Darshan Nalkhande, who I also have never heard of. But yeah, it feels funny to spend part of the IPL watching Jitesh Nalkhande bowling to Jitesh, right?
Dude, Nalkhande got me some points, man. This was the double uncapped day. We'll talk fantasy at the end, but I had
he got me some points. He got me some points as well. But overall, 189 thanks to, I would say, Livingston, because everyone else was just a 10, 20, 30 kind of thing. So that was mainly his innings. Now, 189 and 20 is against most teams, good enough. But teams that have Tewatia, it's a different ball game. So they start off Matthew Wade, who was a hero in the T20 World Cup for Australia. He's done nothing so far. But Shubman Gill, what has happened to him? 96 of 59. I think you just need to leave KKR, man. Look at Kuldeep. Look at Shubman Gill. I think you just need to leave KKR. DK. You just like thrive after you leave that environment. Anyway, 96 of 59. Sai Sudarshan.
Sorry, basically we have hated on every team except Delhi. We've made fun of CSK and Mumbai for losing, made fun of Hyderabad for being boring, and KKR now for anyway. We're just alienating our fans one episode at a time.
And then so he hit beautiful. I mean, honestly, he played some excellent shots. I haven't seen that kind of quality batting for a long time. Very disappointed to get out at 96. Sai Sudarshan gave him great company. So that was pretty good.
Never you are enjoying these uncapped players too much.
No, heard of him too. And part of the problem is India's given everyone a cap, right? So everyone has a cap now.
Did you know that Gautam had a cap?
I was trying
to change my fantasy team today, and I was like, Gautam is a great pick for 7 points. And I was like, when did he play for India? It must have been one of those tours where I think the Sri Lanka one. Everyone got sick. Yeah,
one captain.
When Dravid was about to come out and bat at 3 because of COVID.
So Sai Sudarshan has not yet played for India, but I have no doubt he'll be there soon. And Hardik Pandya again doing what he does best, 27 of 18. Every time I see him, I think I get happier and happier when I see him do well, because I don't think there is a player like him. But then after watching all this, right, I think I was out and I was on my way home and I was just like, Gill is at 96, Pandya's going at a strike rate of 150. This is easy. This is done. And then you come home and you realize that there is still 12 of 2. How did they get to the situation with one guy making almost 100? I missed that overthrow. What happened? Did any of you see that?
So it was interesting. I'll run through quickly. First, Pandya was interesting. He got run out. The ball went behind. He was at the non-strikers end. The ball went behind Miller. And Pandya called for the run and set off, and then got run out by Bairstow and was really upset at Miller, which is an interesting kind of look into him as a captain, right? He's obviously done well. He's got the results. And then Odean Smith is bowling. He has 14 to defend of 3 balls. Okay. They get a single. Tewatia was on strike. He gets a Am I doing this right? No, basically, he got the ball back. Tewatia was at the non-striker's end, and he threw it. He took a shy at the stumps to try to get Tewatia run out. He wouldn't have been run out, and he wouldn't. It basically the score would have been 13 off of 2 with Miller on strike. His shy at the stumps went to the fielder at long off, which made it 12, which got them one more run, which made it 12 off 2 instead of 13 off 2, suddenly winnable instead of tieable, and Tewatia on strike instead of Miller. Now, Miller's done this type of stuff before, but just that split-second decision to shy at the stumps got them from 13 off 2 to 12 off 2. And at the time, even the commentators, for all the crap they get for being not great at commentary, even they said, you've just gone from an unlosable match, you could have tied it, to a losable match. And of course, you're going to tell us what happened next.
Yeah, and then what happens next is unbelievable. Tewatia comes on strike, cool as a cucumber. And I think I remember him saying something like this before the tournament, that he thinks he and Pandya will be finishing games for...
Yeah, which you mocked in the preview, which is on record.
And then we laughed about last week, DJ, and he had done it once already.
Yeah. And then he comes out and he hits the first one, which when it's in the air, you're not quite sure if it's going to be a catch or if it's going to go across the boundary. It gets across the boundary. 6 off 1. Again, everyone thinks it's impossible. Tewatia just steps to one side and kind of tonks it on the leg side. And this was a big 6. Like, he started celebrating. Rashid Khan and the team ran on the field. Hardik Pandya was just smiling where he was sitting. I mean, this is just the 4th game of the tournament, yeah, or 3rd game of the tournament. It is insane, the kind of craze this brings now suddenly when you've got these last ball wins. But full credit to him. And I think he tweeted later saying, "Thank you, Milipa, for the single," or something. Like,
he's talking about Miller.
Yeah, like, just insane that Tewatia is like more confident than Miller to hit 12 of 2. It's just, it blows my mind. That's the IPL for you.
But it's that Shardul Thakur-esque energy, and I know I'm going to get flack for it. Right? Like, just works hard and just backs himself, even when, like, Shardul is now Lord and plays for a fixture in the test team and all that. But even when nobody did, he just backed himself, and Tewatia just backs himself. It's incredible to watch. And
this is a guy who Samson once turned down a single to in that Sharjah innings. In the original Tewatia innings, Samson didn't run. He wanted to retain the strike.
So,
to Tewatia.
DJ, crazy. Before we go to the next game really quickly, what does Tewatia have against Punjab, man?
Both of them have come against Punjab.
Both Punjab, and apparently he did something similar in the run in the Syed Mushtaq or one of the local tournaments against the Punjab state team.
And also, West Indian bowlers bowling the last over, because it was Sheldon Cotter. Sheldon Cotter, right? That he took for 35 sixes. I was actually watching that recently before he did that. And I was like, how is this man just stayed so cool and just incredible? But for me, actually, that was great. But for me, the shot of the match was actually Gill, and we alluded to it a little bit earlier. But there was one push drive that he hit straight off Arshdeep, and it was just poetry. Everything was just flowed. It was past mid-on, and it was just poetry when he struck the ball, and he just did that. It was like watching a young Sachin Tendulkar again. It was just beautiful. Yeah, great game. Well done to those guys.
Yeah, fully agree. Full credit. I will just one last thought before we go to the next game. It was good to see Mayank, a young new captain, in the press conference, not at all throwing Odean Smith under the bus. He realized that at the time nobody was feeling worse than Odean Smith was, and so he didn't specifically call him out. He didn't. Captains can easily go a different direction, and it was good to see Mayank.
But is Smith going to play the rest of the IPL now? Because they've got an issue with the overseas players, right? Because they've got Bairstow in now, and I don't know whether Odean Smith starts anymore for the Punjab Kings.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's possible they give a look to, like, I'm trying to look at who else their options are, right? They dropped Rajapaksa, so maybe they bring in an Ishan Porel or somebody else, Raj Bava or somebody else, domestic bowler, and bring Rajapaksa back. Like, that was, he looked great in the
first. He was looking great, right? And if you're bringing in Rajapaksa, you need to figure out your bowling, because Smith is bowling his quota. Well, he bowled 3 in this game, including the last one, which was unfortunate for him.
Yeah. All right, DJ. Next match. I'm not gonna make fun of it. CSK versus Hyderabad. Maybe we just go through it pretty quickly. Not a lot to write home about. 154, and then some Abhishek Sharma heroics.
Yeah, I think that pretty much sums it up. Abhishek Sharma, ex-Delhi boy, actually. I think he made his debut for Delhi, scoring a lovely 50. I had him in my fantasy team for the uncapped booster, so that was a good result for me. 75 from him. But yeah, he looked good, and he opens the batting, and he can bowl left arm spin as well. I mean, honestly, not great from CSK again, right? Like 169. They don't. Yeah, they've had a slow start, and I'm beginning to think that they're not. It's still a long way to go in the IPL, so let's not write anyone off. But I'm trying to figure out what their way back is, and I don't see a way back for them. I mean, basically, 154 for 7 is these are not scores that like are going to win you games. I mean, no one has really gone on and scored the runs. You had Moin Ali get in, you had Ambati get in, you had Jadeja get in. You're not going to win games with 157, 54 for 7. And yeah, I mean, well bowled to the Hyderabad bowlers. Their strength is obviously their bowling, and yeah, it was Washington Sundar again leading the way, Natarajan taking 2 as well. So yeah, well done to Hyderabad, and well done for not being bottom of the table anymore. They are now above both CSK and the Mumbai Indians.
Yeah, I mean, it shows you how long we spent on the previous match versus this one as to how unexciting it was. I was just happy it was the morning game because it's a 5 a.m. start for me, so I didn't have to wake up to watch it, and I didn't miss much. But Varun, let's come to the 18th match of the IPL. They were back in Pune. Mumbai Indians looking for their first win. We've talked a little bit about it. Honestly, Suryakumar Yadav looked unbelievable.
Oh, yeah.
But I specifically, I want you to run down this match, but I specifically at the end want to talk about the decision that went against King Kohli. And I don't know if you saw him walking back to the dressing room. He was fired up. It just felt like the Kohli we've missed for the last couple of years. But talk us through the game.
Yeah, so this, in any other year, would have been Rohit versus Kohli, but no longer captain. However, in my mind, it's still Rohit versus Kohli. And Mumbai Indians really needed to do something in this game, right? Because they've just come off the back of losses, not used to it. I think when a team like them starts losing, they probably have no idea how to come out of it because they've never faced it before, or they've not faced it often, right? We said it's happened before, but it's just a new group of players, so they probably haven't experienced what this whole Mumbai winning culture is like. And it's okay to say they've won 5 times, but this is a new team. Again, just like DJ mentioned in the previous game, you had Kishan and Rohit get stuck in, but didn't do anything about it, right? Like both at 26. One of these, when you start playing anywhere between 20 to 30 balls, it's the onus is on you to then go on and play 35, 40, 45 balls and really make something of that innings, because the rest of the scorecard, except for Sky, did nothing. And now let's talk about Sky. He was brilliant. I mean, Ashwin, you said Harshal Patel is the only guy kind of as a 100% confirmed in the T20 side. Obviously, you're saying that from a bowling lineup and non-consistent, but Sky has not been 100% in the team. I think the last 2-3 innings he's played, just like there is no question about it. His innovation, his ability to hit all around the ground is just excellent.
But also, how many years have we been saying? Every year he has 3 or 4 great innings in a row, and we ask, why is he not in the side?
Yeah, but at least he's part of the setup now, right?
For sure.
When we were talking about it, he was not part of the setup. So it's always 2 steps, right? And a lot of now everyone's part of the setup, but at least Sky should get a chance. But otherwise, yeah, I mean, unfortunate Tilak Verma got run out, but I think he would have given Sky the support needed and probably boost them to above. But hey, in the last game, DJ said 154 doesn't win you games. This was 151, so clearly it does not win you games. Anuj Rawat came out, and I think DJ had him again, uncapped booster, if I'm not mistaken. Came out and hit 66 of 47 and really kind of showed his class, I would say. The reason why he's opening with Faf. A lot of people who have not seen him before probably are questioning, who's this guy? Why is he opening? So he kind of answered some of those questions, and I think that was great. Kohli was looking good, right? 48 of 36 after a long time. It looked like he was in control of the game, driving the chase. And like Ashwin said, looking like Kohli of the old. I mean, that decision was a bit shocking to me, considering you saw that spike and the bat and ball was so close to the pad. I was a little bit shocked by it. But anyway, easy for RCB at the end of it. Yeah, they finished it with an over and a half to spare. Karthik and Maxwell not out. Which I think is going to be a trend in this tournament that we're going to see for RCB. That Karthik and Maxwell are just going to be expected to finish things off.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I read a lot after that decision and was just kind of understanding. I think where it really got controversial was if you're not 100% clear, if it looks like the ball hit the bat and the pad at the same frame, then the benefit should go to the batsman. And it felt like the third umpire was saying that. He's like, I'm not sure. It feels like it probably hit at the same time, which means I shouldn't overturn the on-field decision, which is not technically how that rule works. If you feel like it at the same time, you give it not out. So obviously a little bit of bias being a Kohli fan, but I was trying to understand a little more. It didn't matter at the end of the game, but it just would have been nice to see King get that 50, right?
Yeah, and it mattered to me because he's my fantasy captain. Because I had backed King Kohli to get some runs, and he did, and he looked good, man. But obviously, there's the Sky question for the India team, where the Sky replaces King. That's going to be a question we need to think about in the future.
Yeah, but DJ, as we get to talking about the final game of this week, which we will cover in this episode, did you back Kuldeep Yadav with your fantasy team? Because I did.
I didn't.
And it was just great to see him. But hey, I made you cover the Hyderabad games. I also now give you the pleasure of covering the Delhi game. Given that Varun has a lot of associates who are KKR fans, maybe you guys should tag team this one a little bit. DJ, why don't you lead us off?
Absolutely. I mean, we batted first at the Brabant Stadium. Good pitch, small ground. So we needed to do well. We got off to an absolute flyer. I mean, it was Prithvi Shaw smashing it, David Warner giving him great company. I mean, remember Warner had come back. He'd failed in the first game. He made 4 of 12 in the first game that he was back, which was a bit surprising given his run in the IPL, right? But Prithvi Shaw, I mean, I think Varun has backed him to be the orange cap winner this year. He's been doing pretty well. So it was nice to see.
Number 5 right now.
Yeah, it was nice to see him doing well. David Warner got 50 as well. Rishabh Pant came in at 3, which was, I think, probably the right decision. But it was pretty early that he came in. He came in the 8th or 9th over. And he was falling over every ball. He hit one-handed shot where the bat went flying behind the wicketkeeper, but the ball still went for 4. So it was like everything was happening. But KKR fought back in the middle stages with their spinners. They got Robman Powell, who frankly looked pretty clueless against the spinners, and they got Lalit Yadav, both. But just when it was looking like Delhi were going to choke and not score even 200 from at one point looking like they were going to go 220, the partnership of the game was Shardul Thakur and Akshar Patel. Akshar was dropped. I think he was dropped on 3. And the next ball, Warner went, and that brought Shardul in. Oh my God. It was absolute carnage from Shardul Thakur and Akshar Patel. Akshar got 22 of 14. And Shardul hit these huge. He hit 3 sixes and is 29 of 11. Now, for a guy who gets a lot of hate for not being probably the best all-rounder that India can have, this guy is a wholehearted cricketer. And again, he's proved his worth. And the strength that Delhi have in that middle order with the Akshars, with the Shardul, which means you can keep going hard up top and through the innings. And I mean, 215 for 5 was a great score after looking like we were not going to get there. Interesting, as we spoke about Andrik Norkia, we dropped him, brought Khalil in, which initially seemed a bit strange because we already had the Fizz, who's left arm. And then he brought Khalil in. So, initially we were all wondering, why have we got 2 lefties? But, I mean, maybe I'll hand over to Varun for the KKR innings because it was a very strange first over to Rahane.
Yeah, I don't know what Rahane was doing. 8 of 14. I was getting all sorts of messages on my group saying, getting angry hate messages at Rahane. So, yeah, again, we've talked about it earlier. They're going to have to figure that out. They kind of everyone had a stop start, right? Like apart from Shreyas Iyer scoring a 50, everyone in this lineup looks like they could go hard, but something just didn't click today. I mean, I have to give credit to Khalil and Kuldeep, right? Between them, they picked up 7 wickets. And Kuldeep is also left armer, man. This Delhi team has just got too many lefties in their bowling lineup. But excellent bowling, kept the pressure. Look, they had the batting to back it, but at the same time, we've seen scores above 200 being chased down before, and this was clearly a good batting pitch. So I think the day game helped us a little bit. There was no dew, so the bowlers were equally into the game. Overall, fantastic performance by Delhi. KKR, honestly, look, they're consistent. They're more consistent than Delhi. So I just want to say that, like, they had a bad day because with 215, what happens is you have to go from every ball, from the first ball, right? Only a Russell can play a forward defense chasing 215 because he knows that he could still win it.
But what a defense it was.
Yeah, it was
so
amazing.
Classy. It was a solid test match.
Yeah. So overall, good. What I want to say to all the Delhi fans out there is that look, it's a good win, but you need that consistency, right? This team is not looking the same as last year. I think we need one batsman who comes in at 3, and we're missing Mitch Marsh because with that little bit of experience, he would have been fantastic.
Instead of Rovman Powell, I guess, right? He would have played.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, absolutely. I would love to have. Yeah, I think instead of Rovman Powell. So I think Mitch Marsh would be important. Look, Powell has hit big sixes before. I am okay with him peaking later, okay? Because we've struggled with that in the past.
But does Powell know that if you hit a 6 that just goes over the boundary, you still get 6 runs for it?
Wasn't there a joke about that this week on Manjrekar or Akash Chopra? Somebody tweeted if you get over 100 yards, 100 meter 6, you should get 8 runs.
Yeah, and then Chahal replied to that, right?
What did he say? He said you should get one hand out also.
No, that was our tweet.
What did Chelly say? 3
balls dot out or something.
That's true. Why not? You create these rules.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
So yeah, but it's not looking. Look, I think unless we find that consistency, you're going to have this 2 wins, 2 losses, 1 win, 2 losses.
We have a guy who's taken 10 wickets sitting at the top of the bowling lineup, who we've got from KKR. And we gave them Iyer, who scored a brilliant 50. But, I mean, that moment where he bamboozled Iyer, who's a fantastic player of spin, and got him stumped by Rishabh Pant it was so cathartic for so many of us. It was so great.
All that whole Kuldeep over, where he picked up 3 in his last over of his spell, like including the Iyer stumping. And then the last ball of his spell, he ran what felt like forever and dived full. Kuldeep, let's be clear, is a fantastic bowler, not known for his fielding, and ran full speed, dived full length, grabbed it, and just the raw. I mean, like I was sitting alone on my couch early at 7:30 in the morning, and I raised my hands in delight and was like screaming because there's just something about this guy who was at one time a fixture in Team India's side in limited overs cricket and has just kind of fallen out of fashion. You saw there's the visuals of him carrying drinks for KKR and just seeing him in Delhi colors, selfishly, come back and pick up 4 in a win against KKR. There was just cathartic was the word you used, DJ. There's something so cathartic about it.
And it was like he was giving the KKR owners and management a send-off with every wicket. It was just too good. I mean, also Shardul's catch running backwards. The fielding was excellent by Delhi today as well, which was... I mean, yeah, it was.
Shardul can bat, Shardul can bowl, and now he can juggle too. He juggled that a few times before he picked it up.
Only you can find fault with a catch running backwards to the
boundary. It was a great catch, but it was funny to watch.
No, but the encouragement is what this guy needs, Kuldeep, right? Like, I think it was either Rahul or Dickok. I think Dickok. And it was behind the stumps. Pant says, Iska wicket, tu hi lega Kullu, right? That's what Pant said to him, that it's you who's going to take this wicket. And sure enough, a couple of balls later, Kuldeep got him. So, yeah, man, I think Ponting and Pant know that this is what needs to be done. They will just continue doing it because he's a good bowler.
And he's special, man.
Yeah, and he said this, by the way. He said in the press conference, I'm just reading this really quickly, but he said, the team is backing me a lot. Rishabh has been very calm and is guiding me from behind the stumps. I'm enjoying it a lot, which I think says everything. Yeah, just a great win for Delhi. As we record this, last thing I want to say before we do fantasy, I know we've gone a little bit long, but it's been a lot of fun to catch up with you both. Varun, I don't know if you've been paying attention, but in the 19th over, after 18.2 balls, I think we have seen from Rajasthan the first of the season with them retiring out Ravi Ashwin. You want to talk that quickly?
Yeah, I was going to bring that up, but I don't know if you wanted to save it for next week. But so they've sent Ashwin when there was a collapse to kind of steady the ship. Ashwin actually played pretty well, 28 of 23, but within that strike rate of 120, which I think is fair and expected of him. And suddenly, like you say, with about an over and a half or 2 overs to go, they've retired him. Now, we're recording the podcast, right, at this time. So I immediately quickly tried to check if he got injured, and he wasn't injured. So this is a strategic move. And I think this is brilliant. And I was trying to quickly check as well. Apparently, this has always been allowed.
Yeah.
So you don't have to get retired hurt. You can be retired out. So I don't know why this hasn't been used that much in the past. I can't recall any instance where it has. But suddenly it feels like a very strategic move that teams could use.
Yeah, I think interesting. And in this case, Riyan Parag came in and hit a 6. At least, didn't get a lot of the strike, but hit 1-6. But yeah, in the last over, if you got somebody like Hetmeyer, you bring in a younger, faster runner because Ashwin was getting tired. Yeah. He doesn't have that fitness, and he also needs to bowl 4 full overs. So very interesting. Lots of fun stuff.
I bet he had to input on it as well. I mean, I'm pretty sure he's the thinking cricketer, right? And he would have been like, okay, I've done my job here. Somebody else can come and hit 6s now because I'm tired, and there are better people in the...
He saw Sanju Samson kind of waving at him, and he thought, is he declaring in the 18.3 overs? So yeah, I'm pretty sure Ashwin was in on it.
That's got to be next, right? A T20 declaration. Russell and Cummins are batting, make 250 in like 12 overs. So just like, let's just declare. We're done. So anyway, I really quickly, guys, fantasy update, and I'm going to wrap up this week's episode with one fantasy tip from each of us. So think about it. But the Edges and Sledges Fan League is now up to 157. If you haven't yet joined, we'll post a link in the show notes, growing every week. We are sitting at an interesting spot. DJ, of the 3 of us, you are leading. You are in 6th place at the moment of recording this, 7,900 points. So it's been a good run for you so far. And you are sitting with 85 transfers left. I am in 13th place with 7,333 points. So a little work to do to catch you. And Varun, you are a little further down, but pretty close in 20th place with 7,000 points. So, hey, out of 157, at least all 3 of us are in the top 20.
So how many transfers have you guys got left, though? Varun, that is going to be the key, I think, going forward.
Varun has 88 left, so 5 more than you. And I have
3 more than me.
4 left. Sorry, you are... Okay, yeah, math is hard. So that's where we are. Really quickly, shout out to our leaderboard. This one is iffy because it's the same team that was second last time. It's called All Teams Below This Line Suck.
So but 156 teams suck.
But only 33 transfers left. So it's going to be a pretty quick fall from grace, I think. In second place, Wicket Sensation, 8,766 points with 81 transfers. So right up there. And in third place, KVR, the champ. Also a little bit heavy on transfers, used up a bunch, 73 left. Honorable mentions to FPL Skinny Panda and Flicky Flaka, who are in 4th and 5th. This is just great. You guys always give me the
And Flicky Flaka has a lot of transfers left. I remember looking at
96 left. Yeah, that's a good point. And FPL Skinny Panda has 86. So pretty competitive. It's heating up. It's always going to be fun to continue writing this out. Before we wrap up, Varun, let me come to you first. We shared a couple of fantasy tips last week. Let's see if we have one from each of us to wrap up the episode.
And Varun, you can't repeat the Bumrah tip because that's come twice in 2 episodes. So
what is the Bumrah tip?
That don't pick Bumrah because he goes for less runs and doesn't take wickets.
No, I would say like I'm mid-table right now, but my tip would be that there are a lot more teams and there are a lot more gaps between the matches. So it's very difficult to manage the subs. So what I'm learning is that you may want to have 3 to 4 players just fixed who you know you're going to be picking regularly and then change around the rest. Because what I found very often is that I'm coming through 3 games in a row where I don't have a single player in the team. And I'm having to make minimum 2 + 1 free every time. And it's still keeping me at the bare minimum, right? So I was struggling a little bit with that. But it's just there's too many games, there's too many teams, and there's not enough subs. So that's why I would say just be smart about how you do that.
DJ, what's your pick? Yours last time was like waste a sub if you need to instead of changing teams or something like
Yeah.
that. So what is yours this?
For me, it would actually be. I've got 2 tips actually, or maybe I should save one for next week.
Save one for next week, otherwise
Okay.
we're going to run out.
Yeah, okay, cool. So for me, it would be actually try not to captain and vice captain a batter and a bowler in opposing teams, because it's really painful when your bowler gets your batter out. Like today, I had Avesh Khan and he got Josh Butler out, who was my captain. And like I hadn't vice captain Avesh, but typically I tend to captain a batter and vice captain a bowler, because with a batter, the upside is unlimited almost, right? But with a bowler, you've only got 24 balls to take those wickets in. So a 5-wicket haul will probably get you as many points as a 100, but a batter has 120 balls to score those runs in, whereas a bowler only has 24 balls to take 5 wickets.
Interesting math. Yeah, lots of interesting things happening in this game. I'm having a hard time focusing because Trent Bolt has just picked up 2 wickets in 3 balls, it looks like. But as I wrap up with my fantasy tip, I like to, and you guys have seen me do this for many, many years, I like to have at least one guy that I'm pretty confident nobody else has. And so like I will, in an RCB game, I'll have Faf or Virat or Harshal, which everybody has, but I always try to pick one guy who nobody else has. And typically in years where I've done well, or even weeks where I've done well, that's been the differentiator. Because after a point, players like Faf or Moeen or Virat or Rohit Rahul, those are all just going to give you the same thing everybody else gets. So that's where I'm at. It's been a fun week, guys. Thank you for staying on for almost an hour. It's been a great chat. Lots to cover, lots to run through. Again, very different, positive mindset when the Delhi team has just come off of a big win. So congratulations to all the Delhi fans. And we will be back next week to double click on more of the rest of the games and hopefully talk more about Mumbai and Chennai not yet on the board and Delhi scoring more points. But that's just me being wishful. Thanks as always for listening to the Edison's Legends Cricket Podcast. We are at One Tip, One Hand on all social media, and we will see you next week.